Good morning. My name is Daragh O'Neill. I'm from the class of 1994, and I'm here this morning with my good friend Ravin Sadhai, who has travelled the whole way from Melbourne, Bacchusmarsh in Victoria, but we could say Melbourne really. And we'd like to just sit, have a chat, catch up, and maybe talk a bit about times in RCSI 30 years ago. Ravin.
Thanks, Daragh. We're here all the way from Australia. 30 years graduated, feels like yesterday, and we had a lovely function yesterday with our classmates. I think it was our biggest turnout ever.
Yeah, definitely.
And I saw some people I hadn't seen in 30 years. It was like yesterday. It was brilliant. We had a great time.
We sat the other night and we looked at the yearbook, and the pictures just were the same, really.
And we laughed because it was all these. They had the sayings of people. What people used to say. We won't mention what Shastri used to say.
No.
It was excellent, and it was good to see people again in the flesh. Little catch-ups in between for others, and So I met you in pre-med in 1988. I was 18 and straight out with lots of hair. We had a great time at the start, and I remember you being very kind for me because I knew a few people, but not many. So.
And did you find it a big culture shock arriving into
Absolutely,
to Ireland? Yeah.
It's a very family orientated. Hadn't travelled a lot, and if you think it's a very far away, but back then it was even further. But there was no internet. It was
a day of travel or more.
Yeah, couldn't call. You couldn't. It wasn't easy to be in touch with family. So that's one of the saddest days of my life. The 6th of October, when my family left, and I really struggled. But I was in a place called Hatch Hall on Hatch Street. Unfortunately, that was right next to Leeson Street. So I frequented there a little bit.
But there was a good few from our class actually, because it was a transition sort of place for them to come, and they were all experiencing the same thing.
People from Trinidad, some Australians. So I think that banded us together really well. And we made friends with all the guys from Millen House, as you would have as well. We made friends with people. You helped us with playing some sport. With Ian Miller's wacky ideas of societies to get the funding. Skiing, dancing, something else.
Water skiing?
Water skiing, yeah. I don't think you ever water skied, did you?
Oh, I did, yeah. In fact, there's a picture that was circulating around last night, I think about it. I'm not sure what Nick Eustace was doing, but we leave that to the imagination.
Yeah. But, starting off was hard, homesick, far away. I was lucky enough to have family here, so I think I mentioned to you that I've got a long association with RCSI. My dad was a graduate, 71. My uncle, 85, and another uncle, 83. And subsequently my cousin, 2014, so he's 10 years graduated.
And you were saying as well, like when you went home, there was a sort of a history of them meeting up, because there was always that little bit of collegiality that you didn't find with other colleges, I thought, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And we were a small class. We were banded together. We had different subsets of classmates, but I think I tried to involve myself. So one of the societies, just talking about societies, was the Food and Wine Society or something. International Food Society. Yeah. And they were great days.
Do you remember that they used to have this big cook-up in the exam hall?
Yes.
And every country did foods that I never even dreamt of coming from rural Ireland. I wouldn't have dreamt of a lot of the foods, but I quickly caught on to it.
And especially the Malaysian students, they used to love that concept of hot pot.
Yeah.
And people bring their own foods, and we did that socially as well sometimes with the
Gourmet Society.
Gourmet Society, that's it. Yeah. Not Food and Wine. That's probably what we're doing now.
That's our 30 years of slipping, I suppose.
So I think part of that RCSI connection was the different cultures. I'd never met anyone from Trinidad, and there was lots of similarities because we're Indian. I'm South African Indian born, so I knew some South Africans, and it was a culture thing. Had some Irish families, had some Irish. So it was having this, and I think that opened the world for us very quickly as me as an 18-year-old.
And it was 6 quick years, wasn't it? Similarly, I came from rural Ireland, and Ireland wasn't multicultural at that stage. In fact, it was distinctly not multicultural. And for me, it was eye-opening. It was fantastic. Even the names were so different. Now, working as a GP, I've been able to embrace the fact that, part of my formative education involved understanding people from other countries, their background, what makes them be what they are. And I hope it helps me on a daily basis. And that's one of the great things I think about the college.
Couldn't agree with you more. And just the mix of cultures, people, personalities. You get exposed to an Irish culture, but which is at the forefront, but you get exposed to so much more at RCSI. So that was important, I think, and part of all of our developments and friendship groups.
Yeah. So 30 years ago, a group of 133, I think there was, of us graduated from here. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journey from that time.
So after graduation, I went back straight to Australia. I felt it would be hard if I hang around and, missing family and etc. So did some internship with 2 other graduates in Canberra, the capital of Australia. Went back to Melbourne and did some emergency work, transitioned to general practice, and been in general practice 25 years and thoroughly love it. And in fact, some of you have come out to my home in Bacchus Marsh, which is west of Melbourne. And that's where I've ended up. So I've been there nearly 20 years now, which in general practice, and work with my uncle, who's the graduate as well. So still the RCSI connection, even my workplace right now. And yourself?
Well, I graduated from here. I interned in Blanchardstown. It was a great little crew of us. Actually, we're catching up last night in Blanchardstown. After that, I followed into paediatrics. I did 2 years of paediatrics, and then moved towards general practice because I felt my calling was slightly more in that direction. I trained in the Midlands and became a GP in Louth. I've been there since 1999 outside of Drogheda. Mm-hmm. Since then, I've gone on to have, surprisingly and against most people's expectations, quite an academic role in life.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, exactly. I'm clinical professor of general practice, forensics and legal medicine. Curious that because I married a forensic scientist after all, so I do tell her every so often, I am actually your boss. And I have
well.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have a successful general practice in Drogheda, and I have a lot of RCSI students coming through because my affiliation would be quite strong with the college. A lot of undergraduates, a lot of the GP trainees, and as I was director of GP training in Ireland. So I would always like to catch up with the students and like to give back to what I got. Yeah. So it's quite an interesting journey. But
it's interesting, and we were very good friends. But I never sort of saw you as a general practice, but our careers have intersected a fair bit. Yeah. And even talking with you the other day about general practice and how you teach and how I teach is actually there's a lot of similarities. We were discussing about. I'm a GP educator as well and do all the other stuff, but the GP education sort of side is, and it's probably inbuilt in how we learnt.
Yeah. Bill Shannon was very influential in what I did and chose. He was a professor of general practice. I think he could have been the first professor of general practice. But I remember a couple of days before our exams, I was at home painting a fence, and he passed by. He was doing a house call to the neighbours next door. Yeah. And he saw me outside and we had a chat, and he says, "Come on, you'll learn a little." Yeah. And it's like that, and I hope I've taken that approach into life. There's always an opportunity to teach, because here it was a family, like we were all intertwined, and wherever you meet somebody, you just pick up at it, and I know somebody there, or so everyone all over the world, because we were sitting the other night about it. I said, I'm going to Singapore. I said, you should catch up with so and so. So we met up in Australia last year, straight off the books. We went straight out for dinner and had a great time. Caught up at Siobhan
Burke, who's a classmate for a few years, and she's an Aussie, and I coincidentally went to school with her. So it's a lot of connections everywhere, isn't there?
It's great. It's great. And tell me about life in Bacchus Marsh. Yeah, what's your normal day like?
It's hectic and busy, as I'm sure everyone's is, and own a general practice. We have 3 sites. We have 16 general practitioners. So there's that part of the business side of things, but having general practice work 4 or 5 days a week. What I like, Bacchus Marsh is a smaller town, probably similar maybe to Drogheda, maybe a bit smaller. But it's a community place, and my late dad, who was the graduate here, he was a GP in town, so people know me, and where I work now, I still see some of his patients as well. So that sort of family dynamic still remains. 4 days a week I do some hospital work. I'm involved with palliative care a lot. And on the other side, I did a lot of sports medicine, so I enjoy watching sport, and I'm very good at it. So Aussie Rules, AFL, which we went to a game when you're in Melbourne. So I do a bit of sort of semi-professional work, and so I think the beauty of general practice for me is you can involve yourself in as much as or little you want. And you do some stuff around Drogheda as well, don't you?
Yeah, so my particular interest, I suppose, was paediatrics because I have a mind like a child. Maybe that's the main reason for it.
Well, you actually do, yeah.
But I have a special interest in women's health and done an awful lot of women's health, in particular around contraception. So I would have lectured a bit on it, done a little bit of research, and taught a lot in that regard. Yeah. But it's all a general practice aspects. I just like every bit of it. So I took a bit of a different direction. I had a large practice similar to your own, not quite as big, and then moved sideways for a more qualitative approach to managing patients, and it has been a positive move for me anyway, because your career takes different turns, different challenges, different things come along that you can't predict. You fall back on your friends in those places, but sometimes when you pick yourself up and dust yourself off, it's great to be able to move on with it. And even last night, seeing the people and all the various different journeys they've been on, it's been great. I mean, I have a 24-year-old. You have a 22-year-old. But then we met people last night who have 9-month-olds and 4 months old, and you're thinking, oh, goodness, would I like to be back there?
No. So tell me about your family then.
So I married my wife Dorothy. She did her PhD here in RCSI, and so we would have met here in college. And we were married in '96, and we have 3 lovely kids. 3 kids, I'll leave it at that. But it's great. They were all born up in Drogheda. They grew up in Drogheda. I've gone to school. I've lived my life through them. I hope they'll live their life their way. My eldest is actually an intern in Beaumont, which is great to see the pattern turning after 30 years. And my youngest is starting in medicine, and the middle fella got a real job, which is nice to see. And yours?
So 3 kids as well. So my eldest is 22. He's a paramedic. And my middle daughter Zara is 3rd year science, and one 18-year-old Nate who's finishing off school now, so the leaving cert equivalent. So we'll have no children in school next year, and we'll be travelling much more to Dublin and Europe and stuff. So it
was curious, wasn't it, when we met in Melbourne a couple of years ago when we went to the match, we sat one side and we babbled, but the kids sat and they started doing their own thing.
They got on grand, didn't they?
Yeah, great. Yeah. And into explaining the rules, and a bit like it was here, I suppose.
And I think they sort of follow each other on Instagram or whatever socials.
Yeah.
Still, I think so, which is funny. And it's funny, but when we like watching sport, and I got to love watching English soccer, and so now my son, 22-year-old, because in Australia not many people understand soccer or football. But he's into watching Liverpool with me now, so it's actually turned full circle through me, so through my connection with being here. So
So you have a particular thing that you do to relax, which is I always find amusing. But while you were here, you were quite involved in the music aspect of college. So what do you do to relax?
Oh yeah, it's kind of like my mindfulness, I guess. I when I was here, I always played drums all my life. I got involved with the Music Society in a big way. We had great times, and then I picked up a guitar. I got given a guitar, and a fellow called Dermot Mulcahy.
Yeah, Dermot.
At Hatch Hall taught me guitar. Taught me 3 chords, and away I went. And so I play a lot of guitar, drums, and I'm in a band locally in Bacchus Marsh, so we're very famous. We're called You've Seen Worse, and then I'm also.
I think they'll subtitle that bit with the Australian accent.
Hopefully you have. Is what we say. Then we've and I was in a band here with 2 lads above Mylon and Donald Walsh, and we had a very witty name called the Cremisterics.
Yes.
So for those. Anatomy lectures that we had on those at that muscle.
The concerts that used to be in LT1, and was it the Review they used to call it, where they had comedy sketches intervened with maybe a little bit of classical music?
The Review sort of phased out, and it became just a music evening, which because I think I was probably the only drummer. So I was in 5 bands, including a reggae band and a jazz band, and a rock and roll band, etc. So yeah, it was great old times actually. And
There was a guy called Christy Moore. I don't remember.
Yes, I
He
remember
came
that.
and played. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was magic.
You opened for him, I think.
Yeah. We played a bit. But the music journey kept on going, I guess, more recently from a medical point of view, because I was asked to play in a band of general practitioners from all over Australia. So last year we had the privilege of playing at the WONCA, the World Family Medicine Conference in Sydney. And so we had 18 GPs on stage, all playing various things, all very talented. And we had the best fun. And the funniest thing was, it was around the time of the Rugby World Cup. And so one of the songs we sing is Zombie. And so we said, any Irish people here, come up on stage. And we had maybe 15, 20 Irish people, and they all sang Zombie. Very badly, I mean, but we still sang it. So yeah. So
there's a big trend of, well, always has been, of Irish people moving for jobs. In medicine, people always moved. It wasn't emigration. It was more educationally based. But now they're going for lifestyle choices, for broadening the horizons. How have you come across many Irish people who have travelled to Australia, maybe decided this is their life for them?
All the time, and in fact, as a fellow who works at the local hospital, so I've been in text contact with him because he's asking me about general practice training and what do I do. He was, where is he from? I think sort of the west of Ireland. But and when you pick up the phone and you're talking to someone in emergency or a registrar and they're Irish, it's an instant connection. And I remember talking to someone, and I played cricket down in Cork here when I was at college, and he was from Cork, and I said, I played cricket against Cork, and he knew everyone in the cricket side. It was like, because he was about our same vintage. So there's always connections. And then even I was out for dinner and I saw someone with an Irish accent and doctors, and he was from RCSI. So there's always connections with Irish people.
Yeah.
I'm always looking, if I go to an Irish pub and Irish accent, I'll have a chat to someone. It's amazing, that connection, yeah.
So last night we met 30 years. I suppose you've come for the 10 and 25 and the 30.
Yep.
But you were in between, you've been over a bit. We've met ourselves in Australia a few times. But it's funny, on the 10-year reunion, when people come, people are still struggling in their careers. Maybe some have moved from hospital medicine, some are starting families.
In medicine in general, there's a competition of what you're doing and where you're going and all the other stuff. So yeah, it was different.
Yeah, but 20 year was slightly different. People were a lot more settled, really, in some ways. Although there was a bit of competition of how many papers have you published.
Yeah.
But last night it was different. It was more about how many tablets are you on.
What statin are you on? No, I was actually
and you held on to some of your hair.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I recognised every single person. I thought, oh, who is this? But when I saw them, when they spoke, of course I know you. So it was
and the conversation just picked up.
Yeah. And you had a connection. I mean, obviously we're friendly with others.
Yeah.
More so than so, but we nevertheless, like, even when we were remembering some departed classmates. Unfortunately, we had 4 classmates pass away in our time, and we had a lovely little ceremony there. But even the other thing about yesterday was reflecting on those people and those times as well. So I think it was a really important type of journey and healing about having a discussion.
And I suppose one of the things is that we knew about them having passed. We have a WhatsApp group, I suppose, like everybody else. We're sort of modern. I don't do Insta, but but last night was lovely, where people spoke and we all remembered it fondly. And journeys travel. I mean, you can't have a group of 133 without some element of sadness tinged. But it wasn't sadness last night. It was a memory thing.
It was a memory, yeah.
Yeah, because some passed quite young, some passed quite suddenly.
Yep.
All important members of our class. It's very hard to have 133 important people in the class, but they all were.
Yeah.
It's what made the unit, really, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. And I think in our day, and I'm sounding like an old man here, in our day,
well, we are.
with the lack of social media and internet, we were a very together class.
Yeah.
So we socialised together, we went out together, we do the balls from time to time, and even those people that we didn't perhaps do that pub scene, we went to the houses for dinner, and we were part of that other scene. So yeah, and you were instrumental in that as well. So I think just that togetherness was a bit different. There was no online lectures, so you had to go to lectures, or in your case, not many. But
well, LT4 was an important part of my life.
yes, was that the Swan? Was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and so I think having that that togetherness in class is really important, and I was having good chats about that, and I think I was talking to Ita Brady, our good friend, and she said back then we didn't appreciate it as much as we do it now. And, why would you? Because you're 18 and 20 and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but it's strange to think back. Our era was the Richmond and Jervis Street were closing. Beaumont was a new hospital,
shining bright,
brand new. And like it's people here would take, oh, Beaumont, that's 50 years old. You're thinking it's not actually 50; it's 30 years. We were there for when it opened, and it was fabulous facility then.
Yeah. But I remember the journey out there, it's probably easier now with motorways, was hard work, especially if you lived around town.
Yeah, and we all lived in around town.
Yeah, we did, yeah. And so we had to carpool and give someone £2 for petrol and do all this stuff, because some people didn't have cars. Yeah.
But other things, you'd always make sure that somebody, if there was an exam day and it was taking place in Beaumont, you'd always make sure somebody had a lift.
Yes.
Or even so, if you were on the early 8 o'clock rotation, you'd come back in because the pressure was off you and take them out.
Yep.
I remember one of our classmates, because it's an illegal activity, he had a car where he started with a screwdriver. It was a twin cam 5-speed of its day.
I know exactly what you're talking
about. I remember one day driving someone to an exam in his car, and the gear stick came off of my hand. I'm thinking, what do we do now? But we got there. We got the exams done.
Well, one reflection on some of the story was, so our dear friend Susan Clark, who passed away at 29, she was my housemate for 4 years. So we were microbiology exam, and I had no clue about microbiology, still don't. So
we're GPs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we know what to prescribe. But we were studying till 2 or 3 in the morning, cramming it as the tradition was, and the alarm didn't go off. And luckily, my parents rang from Australia to say, how's the exams going, which wasn't a common occurrence. And it was about half an hour into the exam. So I said, no problems, we'll get into the car. The car didn't start. Hightail to the bus, we're on the bus, and it was mayhem. So we got to the exam, I managed to pass it, fluked it, and Susan got second class honours.
Karma, as it happens as it goes around, So last night, Gavin and Dee
amazing,
gratefully had us in their house. It was lovely in the informality of it, and just being able to, and the weather held up, there was no rain. What time did you get home at? Or are we going to let?
We won't tell anyone that.
1:15 maybe.
Yeah, 1:15.
Yeah. And your plans today?
Busy day. So a good friend of mine, Abdullah, I hadn't seen him in 27 years, and we just hit it off like it was yesterday. And we had a chat, and both of us were into watching soccer and football. So we're going to watch a Liverpool game together for the first time in 35 years, whatever it is. And then we'll head on to the Shelburne and then to the ball later on tonight.
Yeah. So the ball is a great thing. It's a great gathering of people coming back together.
Yeah.
10 years, 20 years, 25, 30, 35, some 50 and maybe even beyond that coming. But it's a great chance to sit down. And it actually reminds us of the old days of the balls that we had.
Exactly, yeah. And what was nice on the function on Thursday night was I saw some people from 89, and I wouldn't have known them very well, but I played music with them. I said, "Oh, you're Ruben, you're the drummer, and you're the guitarist." So that was amazing. So there was connections in different ways, yeah. So and we'll probably see some of them tonight, yeah.
And the building itself, how did you feel coming down York Street, turning right and into it?
Sentimental, and I remember the scariest walk, and I counted my steps, was to look at if I passed my finals or not. So I did 100 steps, got up there, and back then there was, I don't know, you had to look for your number. I think they called it out as well. But I think you were told if you weren't.
Yeah, so we were only talking about this the other day. You stand in the lobby as a group.
Yeah.
You're exhausted because it's the day of the last of exams. Yeah. So there would have been some medals having been interviewed for, and some pass fails. But you all gathered around, and the beautiful Liz Doyle would circulate around. But if you probably didn't need to be there, she might tap you on the shoulder or catch your elbow and say thank you very much, but maybe you might want to. Today's not your day.
Yep.
And then the registrar come down the stairs and call, and you're standing there thinking, did okay, maybe not. And Liz taps me on the shoulder, and I nearly lost my life. I said, that's it, I'm done.
You may have to go early L4.
No, I just wanted to congratulate you. But it was lovely. There was Terry and there was Johnny Car Park and there was all the guys. They looked after you. They did. It was a really small community, wasn't it? Yeah. Johnny would sell you your car probably when
I think he sold Shastri.
He's the beast.
£200 and the screwdriver starter. So yeah.
Jim Sherlock and Frank and all the guys. And coming back in the other day, coming in that door, it was wonderful, I think.
Yeah.
The tradition back then was you got in the front door on your first day and you left the front door on your last day. But I haven't got in that door since, I don't think.
Probably not, no. I did a brief college tour on Friday and had a look around and we'd been to the function on Thursday together. So I think it's an excellent way of reconnecting with the college, and it was nice to do it with other people because we go, remember this, remember that, remember this lecture theatre. So me and Abdullah we used to sit next to each other in the lecture theatre. So we went into the lecture theatre and had a look and thought, this is amazing. And
of course, there was none of this fantastic facility that's across the road.
No, I had a look last time 5 years ago. It's out of this world, really. It's the simulation stuff is world class.
Amazing. Curiously, my children and I are living in the house that I lived in when I was in college, and my middle son, who hates medicine or anything to do with it, and always said, he even said it to me the other day on the phone, Dad, you made me cement my views of whenever we went somewhere, something would happen, and you'd drop us like a hot bag and just run to that person. He says, I don't think I could do that, so I'm not doing medicine. But curiously, he's an engineer and his summer job is actually kitting out the labs in the new wing of RCSI. Wow. So things turn around very small.
Yes. He's got some flavour of RCSI.
But it just says the alumni, I think, is an important part of what it is that we are, because we have a sense of belonging and a sense of...
So I was just telling others that my late dad was a big part of that. So his 1971 class were at the forefront. They did reunion upon reunion. So he went to Scandinavia, South Africa, arranged them in Australia, and obviously here. So he was at every single reunion he could have been. He loved it. And I think that's where people say, you've come a long way. I think that's just to my dad, was always an important part of what he did. And back then there was alumni events in Australia because there was, of his vintage, so many RCSI graduates. So he really enjoyed it and really embraced it. And soon after he passed, we came here about a year later and brought my mum. And so she had the best time. It was the first time after my dad passed, and her connection to Ireland, she lived here for 3 or 4 years. As the saying going, I was actually conceived in Ireland, and I lived my first year in Ireland when my dad was a final med student. So I had many years in Ireland, including my first year. So the connections are very deep for us in Ireland and in RCSI, especially for my mum and dad. And then going on further, my uncle, who's an 85 graduate, he married an Irish woman, so that's my Irish family that I have here. And then his son came into RCSI, who's also a graduate. So we have deep connections into Ireland and RCSI.
Yeah. And it's great with all the nations that they do have. The intake now is 200 undergraduates, and there was no such thing as postgraduate medicine back then. But postgraduate, I think, is now an equivalent number coming in. And as you spoke earlier on, we were 18-year-olds coming in here. We thought we'd seen or were ready to take on the world. But really, I think medicine is a career that once you get into it, wherever your journey will take you, as every morning getting up, wanting to do that job that you love, that's been brought into you here, it doesn't really matter what age you started or what age you finish at. At least you can contribute to life going forward, and that's one of the great things about this college, that it let us stay together. And wherever you are, you'll try and find someone maybe from that area.
Yeah, and it's a good network, and I think the alumni do a good job with emails.
That magazine is...
Yeah.
The kids even look at that to see, do you know him? No.
And where people are, it's always good to know things, and also reflecting on yesterday, where people are and what they're doing is always, and it's interesting because you think, I didn't think you'll end up doing that, but they're very happy doing whatever they did, and so I think it was such a nice time to see where people were and where people are at as well, and And the funny thing, I think at 10 and 20 years, we're talking about your families and showing each other photos of kids. We barely did that yesterday. I think it was just about us.
Yeah, it was great to be comfortable to do it too.
Yeah, and we're like, how many kids you got? Oh, 3. Okay, and that was sort of the end of it. And remember that time? So it was, So I think that family journey as well is important. Well, certainly important for me with my family connections to Ireland and RCSI. Yeah.
So tell me about plans for the future.
Well, no kids at school, so we'll be hoping doing a bit more travel because it's hard for us to come to Europe, and so my wife and I are looking forward to the next bit. Still very heavily involved with general practice, hospital, palliative care. One of the things, it's actually a thing that we've spoken about, where and it's inspiration from my Irish days. Is in our community we had lots of people. Men sort of dying unexpectedly, and it happens here, and men don't take care of their health very well. So I thought of a concept where how can we engage men in their health, and what better place like here is the pub. So I think last time I actually spoke about it. So the pub clinic is a little concept I came up based on Irish times.
So that pub doctor, like we dread, like Dr. Google, no?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but it's an information night, and we do a health information over a beer, and people come and chat, and it's all voluntary. We have a really good turnout, and got on national news some time ago. So, but I think that was the inspiration came from the Swan and just Irish pubs and bars in general. So so it's been a successful sort of community venture. So yeah.
Funny, we were in the Swan on Thursday night. We went down to LT4, and we were no sooner in than somebody came in. Is there a doctor in this pub? Someone had collapsed outside, and about 10 people ran to the, which was great that they dropped everything, including their drinks.
Yeah.
Mind you, Ronan did look for the money. He put them aside, and when he came back in, he says, "Yeah, you owe me for those ones." But it was great to see that people were just willing to move on.
So that family intergenerational thing also applies to the Swan, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With Ronan there,
Yeah.
And Sean, wasn't it?
Sean was dad, a Lions player, a very important man.
Yeah. So, funny enough, I went, a friend of mine came from Australia, and he was here on a holiday, and he was at a loose end, so he texted me, and I said, "Well, go to the Swan." So he met Ronan, took a photo, bought a T-shirt for me, Swan Bar. So so it's quite a unique sort of place and people. Yeah.
So 30 years and you come back here, apart from the fabulous new building across the road that the RCSI has done, what have you noticed about Dublin and how it's changed?
Well, I almost fell off the bus the other day thinking, why am I going backwards on Stephen's Green? So that was a bit of a shock. I mean, the trains in Lewis.
Everything is different. The Lewis didn't exist then.
Didn't exist, no.
We're getting a metro.
Oh, right. There you go.
I think I'll be retired. You can safely say I'll be retired.
Take some time, yeah. In many ways, things are so different and things are the same.
Yeah.
And I felt that, and there's always a deep connection to Dublin. Walking down Grafton Street was just, filled me with joy. It was like, this is what I used to do when I had a lot more hair. And we had catch up with our friend Shastri after 30 years. And we went and sat at a pub and had a pint, which we used to do a bit, and just chatted. And like yesterday, it was awesome. So I think things are very different, but a lot of things haven't changed.
Yeah, so next door to us was a cinema, where the Fitzwilliam Hotel is currently. Beyond that, there was a pub on the corner. Can't remember the name of it, but it was knocked down in our first year, and they built Stephen's Green. Rice's, yeah. So and they built the Stephen's Green shopping centre,
which was more or less brand new, wasn't it? Because
brand new and all this glass. And
remember when we came in '88? When I came, it was is it Ireland's Millennium?
Yes.
88? Yeah.
Dublin's Millennium.
Dublin's Millennium. Yeah. And ironically, it was Australia just turned 200 years old, and Dublin was 1,000 years old in the same year.
Curiously, I live in a house that's older than Australia now, so that's where our heritage is.
Yeah.
But I do a bit of travelling ourselves now that our children have moved on, and we can go off peak where it's a little bit cheaper. It's important to have your cabin blood tells me when it's cheaper to travel, I suppose. But it's just curious, when my wife says, you go and book the holidays, I'll always pick somewhere, and I can think, who can I meet there when I get out there? Yeah, so it's okay. And in Melbourne, when the morning after I met yourself and Siobhan, I was walking down the street, and a car stopped to let me out, and it was a classmate in the car. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. It's a lot like that. And I was lucky enough to do a presentation with RCSI in 2017 to Singapore and to Malaysia. So I rallied around and caught up with a whole heap of classmates who generally haven't come back to Dublin, but it was amazing, reconnection with them, and I was mates with them. They were the food guys and the hockey guys, hockey, and so the Malaysian guys were great guys.
I think we're having a reunion in Trinidad next year. I'm not sure.
Can't wait. Well, I said to Shastri, our Trinidadian friend, and you've been to Trinidad, haven't you? That I haven't been, but I'll go there when the cricket's on, and we'll have a good time.
So there was the overseas elective. Did you do an overseas at toes?
Not quite. I didn't do the toes, but I did go to Canada, to Edmonton, and I was under a cardiologist there who was a graduate, and with a fellow who was a year below us, Anil Gina. And Anil had family there, so I had the best time. 4 weeks, Canada. I went and visited some classmates in Vancouver and in Toronto. And then, we had an amazing time. We went down to the Calgary Stampede, so it was amazing. Yeah.
Went to Calgary, fantastic time. Actually, when you're talking of Vancouver, our family went to Whistler skiing, and Pamela Lennox was a year ahead of us and had been friendly. Maybe had a crush on her at one stage. I don't know, can't remember. But we spoke, we went for dinner, and about 2 or 3 days later, while skiing, I fell and did some injuries to my knees. So I rang Pamela, and she says, okay, I'm looking at the X-ray now. You're going to need this. I know that he's a surgeon's graduate. We'll get him see you.
Way.
Get down here. I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'll arrange all that. Incredible. It's just to be able to pick up with people. And she was able to look after me so well, and that. I'm not sure that I have a crush on her anymore, but anyway, Pamela's a fabulous girl, and her kids come home as well a good bit to Ireland. But it's great to be able to pick up with those people in Vancouver, the other side of the world, 10 hours behind,
I think, that's a reflection. And talking to some classmates who have taken care of their parents, and they've been able to call on classmates to say, can you fix my mum's or dad's, eyes or knees or whatever it is. So I think that's been a really good thing here and across the world. So
good. It's great to see you having travelled back all this time, and and come in here on a Saturday morning, have a chat, relax. We'll probably go for a cup of coffee now and catch up tonight for the ball.
Yes.
But what we would like to share with all our colleagues here is that it's been a great time. It's been a great journey. It's been great having friends who have been formed for life, really, and picking up where it comes off. Maybe you have a significant year coming up in the coming years, and you know what? Make the journey back. Come and relive the memories. Rebuild your love of this country, this city, this college, and of medicine in general.
It's unique. It's not like anything in Australia at all. And the international flavour, Dublin itself, the connection that we have with each other, it's unique. I think it's truly unique.
Yeah. And the values of the college live within us all, I think, don't they?
Yep, indeed. Yeah.